The Endless War and the Arrival of Humanity. Galactic Senate, the War Council. The chamber of the Galactic Senate was filled with tension. Representatives from dozens of species sat around an enormous circular table, their voices hushed, their eyes weary. The war with the Tirzul Empire had dragged on for over a century, leaving countless planets in ruins. The coalition of free worlds had fought valiantly, but the battle had become a slow war of attrition, one they were losing. High Chancellor Varel, a towering, amphibious being from the Varnax system, slammed a webbed hand onto the table. His frustration was mirrored in the exhausted expressions of the council members. "We cannot keep fighting like this," he declared. "Our resources are depleted, our fleets shattered. The Tirzul will not stop until every free world is under their boot. He hesitated. "We need something new." A murmur passed through the chamber. There was no new. Every strategy had been tried. Every battle had been fought. The Tirzul were relentless, their war culture deeply ingrained. They did not accept surrender. They did not negotiate. They simply conquered. That was when the doors to the chamber opened. A group of 5 figures strode in, humans. The arrival of humanity. The Galactic Coalition had known of Earth for only a few years. Humanity had just achieved interstellar travel, a young species on the galactic stage. Compared to the centuries-old empires present in the Senate, the humans were insignificant. Their introduction had been largely ignored, until now. The leader of the human delegation stepped forward. He was tall, broad-shouldered, his uniform crisp, his expression calm but unreadable. General Marcus Hale, a man with the quiet confidence of someone who had seen war up close. Beside him, a woman in a sleek military uniform adjusted a holographic tablet, her movements precise. Dr. Evelyn Carter, strategic analyst and cyber warfare specialist. The room fell silent as Hale spoke. "We understand that your war has been going on for over a century," he said, his voice even. "That your fleets are exhausted, your armies depleted. We have reviewed the war reports. We have studied your battles." He folded his hands behind his back. "And we're here to end it." A ripple of disbelief swept through the room. Chancellor Varel scoffed. "End it," he repeated. "You don't even have a standing intergalactic army. How do you expect to do what we could not?" Hill didn't flinch. "With all due respect, Chancellor, we are not here to fight like you. We are here to win." Laughter erupted from several council members. A reptilian senator from the Zulnari species, a race known for their tactical brilliance, sneered. "You think you can win against the Tirzul? Their empire spans thousands of systems. Their war beasts have torn apart entire fleets." Dr. Carter tapped a button on her device. The center of the chamber lit up with a holographic display, a detailed tactical analysis of the current war front. "Your tactics," she said, pointing to the display, "are outdated. You fight with mass fleets, slow-moving armies, and predictable formations. You waste lives in prolonged engagements." The image shifted, showing key battles. The Tirzul exploit this. They force you into drawn-out wars of attrition because they can afford it. You cannot. Hale stepped forward, his voice unwavering. "You need a species that doesn't play by your rules. You need a species that doesn't believe in honor-based combat, that doesn't send waves of troops to die for glory." He leaned forward slightly. "You need us." Silence. Varel narrowed his eyes. "And what exactly are you proposing?" Hale exhaled slowly, then spoke 4 simple words. "Give us 5 hours." The council chamber erupted in uproar. 5 hours? One representative barked. "The last major battle lasted 6 years. The Zulnari senator hissed. "Arrogant mammals. You think your tiny fleets can achieve in hours what we could not in lifetimes?" Hale didn't blink. "Yes." Dr. Carter brought up another holographic projection, this one displaying Earth's past wars. The numbers were staggering. Conflicts that lasted mere days. Wars that ended before they even began, fought through superior technology, strategy, and psychological warfare. "Humans," she explained, "do not fight like you. We fight with precision. We disrupt, dismantle, and demoralize. We end wars before they even truly start." Varel exhaled. And if we refuse? Hale's gaze was cold. Then your war continues. Your people continue dying. And in a few more decades, there won't be a coalition left. The room was silent. After a long pause, the Chancellor finally spoke. Very well. Humanity will be granted command of a single battlefront. His voice darkened. But mark my words, if you fail, if your 5-hour promise is a lie, your species will be cast out of the coalition forever. Hale only smiled. Then I suggest you keep your watches ready. The countdown begins. As the meeting ended, the human delegation left the chamber. The coalition leaders remained behind, still in disbelief. They're insane, one senator muttered. Or, Varel murmured, they know something we don't. Meanwhile, aboard the UEF command ship Ares, Hale stood in front of a massive digital timer. 5 hours. That was all he had. Dr. Carter approached him. Are you sure about this? Hale's lips curled into a faint smile. We've fought wars with fewer resources, worse odds, and higher stakes. He turned to the holographic war map, where the enemy's front lines flickered in bright red. This won't be a battle. He reached forward and tapped the display. This will be an execution. And the countdown began. T-minus 5 hours until victory. The art of war. UEF command ship Ares. T-minus 5 hours to victory. The war room aboard the Ares was alive with activity. Tactical officers moved swiftly between holographic displays, their eyes scanning incoming data feeds from coalition intelligence. Every enemy position, every supply line, and every vulnerability of the Tirzul war machine was being analyzed at lightning speed. General Marcus Hale stood at the center of it all, his arms crossed as he observed the shifting battlefield map. The coalition had given humanity command of a single war front, the heavily fortified Tirzul outpost on Kepler, 186F, a planet that had resisted every previous attempt at liberation. The alien warlords believed the planet was unbreakable. They were wrong. Dr. Evelyn Carter stood beside Hale, running simulations on her datapad. The Tirzul don't expect an attack for another standard week, she said. They assume our forces will take days to mobilize, that will spend time reinforcing before even attempting an engagement. She glanced at Hale. We attack now. Hale nodded. Hit them before they realize we're even in the system. Captain Rios, the Ares chief tactical officer, frowned. They have planetary defense shields. Standard orbital bombardments won't work. Good thing we're not doing a standard bombardment, Hale replied. We're bypassing the shields entirely. Rios raised an eyebrow. And how exactly do we pull that off? Hale's lips curled into a smirk. We don't fight fair. Phase 1. The Trojan Horse. 30 minutes later, 3 automated coalition ships dropped out of hyperspace near Kepler, 186F. They bore the insignia of a coalition support fleet, damaged, weak, barely holding together. The Tirzul, ever arrogant, detected the ships and assumed them to be crippled remnants from a past battle. Their scanners confirmed no life signs. What they failed to realize was that these ships weren't disabled at all. They were decoys, and inside their cargo holds were hundreds of drones, swarms, and cyber warfare infiltration units, hidden behind encrypted shielding. As the Tirzul fleet moved in to scavenge what they thought were crippled ships, the drones activated. In an instant, thousands of infiltration bots launched into the enemy network, overriding communications, disabling sensors, and corrupting targeting systems. Inside the war room of the Ares, Dr. Carter watched as enemy systems went dark one by one. They've lost 78% of their external sensors, she reported. They're blind. Hale gives sharp nod. Launch the ground teams. Phase 2, the Shadow Strike. Aboard the stealth carrier Ghostwalker, elite human strike teams prepared for deployment. Unlike the massive planetary invasions attempted by the coalition before, this was something different. Surgical, precise, brutal. Remember, Hale's voice came through their comms. You are ghosts. We are not here to fight a war. We are here to end one. Hundreds of human operatives dropped from low orbit, their entry pods slipping through the crippled Tirzul defenses undetected. The landing was silent, executed with pinpoint accuracy. No mass invasions, No heavy armor, just boots on the ground in the heart of the enemy stronghold. The Tirzul were accustomed to grand, large-scale battles. They did not prepare for an enemy that fought in the shadows. The first wave of human operatives hacked into key command centers, disabling internal security. The second wave planted charges along fuel depots and power stations. The third wave systematically eliminated high-ranking Tirzul commanders in their sleep. The enemy awoke to chaos. Phase 3. The Psychological War. By the time the Tirzul realized they were under attack, their planetary defenses were already compromised. Communications were jammed. Their strongest warriors lay dead. Their automated turrets turned against their own forces due to hacked targeting systems. And then, the final blow came. Broadcasts. All across the Tirzul network, on every screen, every transmission channel, a single message played. Surrender or die. You're not fighting warriors. You're fighting exterminators. The war ends today. The message wasn't just a warning. It was psychological warfare. The Tirzul prided themselves on strength, on dominance. But this wasn't a battle. It was a massacre. Their warlords, once feared, were now corpses. Their defenses, once impenetrable, were now liabilities. Their soldiers, once proud, began deserting in panic. Some tried to organize a counterattack, but their own weapons turned against them. Some tried to hold the line, but their own generals had already surrendered. Some tried to flee, but there was nowhere left to run. Phase 4. The Hammer Falls. Tirzul High Commander Vakroth, bloodied and enraged, stood in his war room, watching his empire crumble in real time. He had ruled through brute strength, through sheer military power. He had never faced an enemy that refused to play by the rules. "Who are these humans?" he growled. His second-in-command trembled. "Sir, they fight like monsters. They do not engage us in battle. They erase us." Vakroth bared his fangs. "We will never surrender. We are the Tirzul." And then, as if the universe itself answered, a massive explosion rocked the ground beneath them. The main power core, the heart of the planet's defense grid, had been destroyed. The shield around Kepler 186F collapsed, and from orbit, the full firepower of the United Earth Fleet descended upon the now helpless enemy stronghold. A single voice rang through every remaining Tirzul comm channel. Hale's voice. "Your empire dies today." And the final assault began. T-minus 3 hours to victory. The collapse of an empire. T-minus 2 hours to victory. The once mighty Tirzul fortress on Kepler 186F burned. Explosions thundered across the planet as human strike teams and orbital bombardments dismantled the enemy stronghold piece by piece. The planet, thought to be an unbreakable stronghold, had become a death trap for its defenders. Deep within the Capital Command Center, High Commander Vakroth paced furiously. His talons clicked against the metal floor as his remaining officers barked conflicting reports, each worse than the last. "The outer defenses have fallen. Our own weapons are turning against us. The human forces, they are everywhere and nowhere. A sudden explosion from above shook the chamber, causing sparks to rain from the flickering overhead lights. Vakroth grabbed one of his officers by the throat and snarled, "Find me something I can kill." But that was the problem. The humans weren't fighting them. They were annihilating them. The silent executioners. What terrified the Tirzul most wasn't the sheer firepower of the humans. It was the way they fought. There was no massive charge, no prolonged battle, no drawn-out conflict like the ones the Tirzul had fought for centuries. The humans moved like shadows, striking where the enemy was weakest. Tactical teams eliminated officers before they could rally their troops. Cyber warfare units hacked entire battalions of combat drones, turning them against their own creators. Stealth bombers wiped out weapons depots and supply chains before they could be used. The Tirzul had prepared for a war. The humans had prepared for extermination. The fall of Vakroth. The fortress doors blew open in a storm of smoke and shrapnel. UEF operatives poured into the room, moving with calculated precision. They were clad in advanced combat armor, their weapons locking onto their targets in a fraction of a second. Vakroth roared, drawing his blade and lunging toward them. His people had been warriors for centuries. He would show these soft-skinned primates what it meant to challenge the Tirzul. He didn't even make it 2 steps. Bang! A single shot rang out. A single hole appeared between Vakroth's glowing eyes. The massive warlord collapsed, his body hitting the ground with a dull thud. His empire fell with him. The broadcast of surrender. Across Kepler, 186F, every remaining Tirzul received a single transmission. A human commander stood before a camera, his armor still dusted with battle debris. Behind him, Vakroth's lifeless body lay in a pool of dark blood. This war is over. The human's voice was calm, cold, absolute. Any remaining Tirzul forces have 2 choices. Surrender now and live. Resist and share your leader's fate. Across the battlefield, the Tirzul forces hesitated. Their empire had never surrendered in its history. They were a species built on dominance, strength, and unrelenting conquest. But now, they saw their mighty fortresses reduced to rubble. They saw their weapons hacked and turned against them. They saw their greatest warlord slain in a single shot. One by one, weapons clattered to the ground. One by one, Tirzul soldiers fell to their knees. And for the first time in their history, the Tirzul surrendered. T-1 hour to victory. The 5-hour war. T-1 hour to victory. The once mighty Tirzul Empire, which had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, was now crumbling. Across every battlefield, human soldiers secured their positions, overseeing the largest mass surrender in known history. At UEF Command, Admiral Catherine Voss stood on the bridge of the UHS Titan, watching real-time footage of the enemy's collapse. A deep silence had settled across the war room, one not of fear or tension, but of awe. 5 hours, one of her officers muttered. They fought us for 5 hours. Voss exhaled slowly. The war was supposed to last years, if not decades. The best human strategists had prepared for a brutal, grinding conflict, one where survival, let alone victory, was uncertain. But the Tirzul had underestimated humanity, and that mistake had cost them everything. The final stand. Despite the overwhelming surrender, one last stronghold remained. The Tirzul High Citadel on their homeworld, Sci-Fi 3. From the safety of a reinforced underground bunker, the remaining council of warlords gathered in desperation. 12 of the most powerful Tirzul leaders, each having commanded legions of warriors, now argued like cornered animals. "We must counterattack," one bellowed, slamming his fist on the table. "We still have fleets." "Our fleets are gone," another spat. The humans turned them into smoldering wrecks before they ever entered formation. The room fell silent. It was High Lord Zalvar, the last true ruler of the Tirzul, who finally spoke. His voice was low, measured, but carried the weight of finality. "The humans, they never intended to fight us in a war." His golden eyes flickered with something foreign. Not rage, not defiance, fear. They came to end us. And that was the moment the warlords realized the truth. They had spent centuries conquering lesser species, bending them to their will, assuming they were the apex predators of the galaxy. But humanity had taken one look at their empire and chosen to dismantle it in hours. The fall of Sci-Fi 3. Above the Tirzul homeworld, the UHS Titan positioned itself in orbit. Hundreds of other human warships joined it, their weapons trained on every major military installation below. A single transmission was sent. "You have 10 minutes to surrender. After that, there will be no homeworld left to save." The Tirzul never surrendered. It was against their nature, against their warrior code. But this was not a war they could win. And so, for the first time in their species' history, the Tirzul activated their distress beacons. Their forces laid down their arms. Their planetary defenses powered down. Their warlords, once feared conquerors, knelt before their human captors. The war had ended. Aftermath. A galaxy changed forever. 5 hours. That was all it took to bring an empire to its knees. The galactic community watched in stunned silence. The Tirzul, once the dominant force of the known universe, were now prisoners of war. But what truly shook the other alien civilizations was how easily humanity had done it. They hadn't fought a war. They had executed a strategy, one that ended a galactic superpower in less time than it took to watch a Hollywood series. In the weeks that followed, the United Earth Federation made its position clear. We are not conquerors. We do not seek war. But if you threaten humanity, we will end you. The message spread like wildfire. Empires that once viewed Earth as primitive now scrambled to secure alliances. Governments that once mocked humanity now feared their efficiency in war. The universe had learned something that day. Humanity wasn't just another species in the galactic order. They were a force of nature, and no one would ever underestimate them again. T-0. Victory confirmed.